Salut YouTube, nous voici sur la deuxième partie de la vidéo que j'ai coupée en deux. Euh, c'est la fin de l'histoire, donc je vous souhaite un très bon visionnage et à la prochaine. Salut.
The Pope believes we should either burn him or make him Bishop of Kingsbridge.
I have already taken matters into my own hands. My men arrested him while Kingsbridge was left unguarded.
While his friends took Earl's Castle.
Yes.
At least in his death, William Hamley was of use to you.
Non, Philippe, il est pas. Chapitre 20. Finale. Shiring, jour de procès.
Look at all these people. It seems like they're enjoying themselves.
They never change. You drooling dogs should be ashamed.
Shut up, you old hag. Ellen?
I'm not feeling well.
I'll take care of you. You two go ahead. Hurry up.
Is your mother ill?
It's not that. This is where they hanged my father.
The trial begins. The judges. Brother of Stephen, King of the English. The Right Reverend Bishop Henry of Winchester. Her Highness, the Countess Lady Aliena of Shiring. Presiding over the trial, the Right Reverend Bishop of Shiring and Kingsbridge, Wailerun Bygod.
Please. The church is not without fault. We have gathered here today before the eyes of God to accuse one of our own. He wrote in his book that the church and the papacy are not necessary as intercessors between God and man. That God is in man, that all men are equal, and that each sinner is as close to our Lord as the Pope himself. Now, we ask God for his judgment. For his is the kingdom, the power, and the glory. Not ours, and not yours. You stand accused of heresy. Philip of Gwynedd, how do you plead? Answer!
I am not guilty.
Your teachings speak another language. Guilty, I say.
I am deeply saddened. It may come as a surprise to you, but we had hoped to make you Bishop of Kingsbridge. Why has it come to this, Philip?
In part, I am to blame. I supported Philip in his early years. I demand that Philip be removed from his position of prior immediately.
No.
And that he remain in captivity until such time that Shiring and all of England have healed from the poisonous words he has dispersed.
No!
What? Yes? Do you not agree with the church as well, my lady?
In what way exactly are Philip's teachings heretical?
Philip of Gwynedd has said that each of us is in part of a godly nature, for God has made us in his image. Therefore, he But none of us, not he, not the bishops, not even the Pope, is closer to God than any other man or woman.
Heresy! Christ made his apostle Peter his first pope. He and us, his church, hold the keys of the kingdom of heaven.
The Bible also tells us, let a man be known by his actions. Philip made Kingsbridge into a prosperous place for its people and for the church you claim he disrespects.
That is true, Lady Aliena.
Yes. Let a man be known by his actions. Call in Remigius.
The Prior of Shiring, Father Remigius.
My bishop.
Tell the court, Remigius, what you have told me.
For many years, I served as sub-prior of Kingsbridge. First for Prior James, then for the accused.
What was your first impression of him?
I was offended by his bluntness and accusations during the chapter discussions.
What else?
Prior Philip did not hesitate to give refuge to the people fleeing Earl's Castle in the winter that our king died.
Is that not a good deed? A true Christian act?
You do not know him as well as you think you do, Lady Aliena. Today, that will change.
Then, on the day of our first fleece fair, we were attacked.
I heard. It was terrible.
I tried to soothe the woman's pain by reading the scripture to her. Our master builder's wife tried to put a spell on her with poisonous herbs.
And Philip intervened.
Yes. He pushed me aside and gave the woman poison.
It is worse than I thought.
It was no poison.
And then there was the day the Virgin Mary's statue arrived in Kingsbridge. I did not believe it was a miracle.
Clearly, it is a miracle. I hear of many who were healed in Kingsbridge.
Well, I soon realized it was a true miracle, but Philip did not. He was only after the money people donated at the Virgin's shrine. That is why I left.
I believe there is one more thing you have not told us about. Something very important.
Yes. Philip has fathered a child. A son. And he raised him in the priory. He is guilty.
Jonathan of Kingsbridge, step forward.
This is preposterous.
Is it?
Is this true? Are you Philip's son? Answer the question, Jonathan of Kingsbridge.
I have no father.
Everyone has a father.
That may be. But if Philip was my father, he would have told me.
How do you know he did not lie to you?
Speak. Answer the bishop.
Philip would never lie. He told me that I was found in the woods.
In the woods? Is this true, Philip? Or are you lying? Well, you told the story so many times.
My brother found him.
Your brother? The brother whose master you betrayed?
What are you talking about?
Philip tried to involve me in a conspiracy against his brother's master, Earl Robert of Gloucester. And his ally, Earl Bartholomew, your father, Lady Aliena. Philip took in all those refugees years ago because he was to blame for their fate, as he was for yours when you lost your father and your earldom. That,
Excusez-moi.
Lady Aliena, is the man you are trying to protect. Well,
I know that he is a troubled man. We've all had to make hard decisions. Decisions that seemed right at the time, when indeed they were terrible mistakes. I am thankful that I was forgiven when I made a mistake. Now I forgive him. Let us now return to the problem at hand. There is a man who witnessed how Jonathan was found in the forest. A man who can shed light on who Jonathan's father really is.
And who is that?
My husband.
Step forward. What is your name?
He is the master builder of Kingsbridge.
have you lost your courage?
No, I have not. You know well why it would be hard for me to face you. They call me Jack, after my father. My name is Jack Jackson.
Yes, we have met before.
How old were you when you allegedly saw Jonathan as a child in the woods?
12. But I know what I saw. Philip told the truth.
You were a child. And what were you doing there, in the woods?
I was living in the forest with my mother.
They were outlaws.
Prior Remigius is the most trustworthy witness we've seen today, and his statement was quite damning to Philip. The distant memories of an outlaw child cannot convince me otherwise.
He fathered a child!
Let him go!
He would never do that!
And yet, Lady Aliena is right. We do not know enough to judge him as harshly as you proposed, Bishop Waileran.
You are right, Bishop Henry. As I said, it is not up to us to judge this man. Philip of Gwynedd has pleaded innocent, but how innocent is he? We ask God for his judgment. As Bishop of Kingsbridge and Shiring, I demand an ordeal by fire.
This is madness!
Philip of Gwynedd will be tried and judged at the stake. If he is innocent, God will save him from the flames. If he is not, then he will burn as the heretic and sinner God has declared him to be.
No! Waileran, by God! Not this time.
It's her.
I saw the child and Francis. I was there. Philip is not the child's father. He is a fool, but he is a good man.
Then, who is the father?
It is me.
They are all in this together. This woman is a witch and an outlaw, living in sin with a thief. He was hanged in Shiring 30 years ago.
He was not a thief. He was a good man. You've murdered him, Waileran, by God.
What is this nonsense?
He was a thief. He stole a golden chalice and melted it down and sold it.
What chalice?
The chalice of the Eucharist. He stole it from the Cathedral of Kingsbridge.
Sacrilege.
Yes, Friar James of Kingsbridge caught him red-handed.
Prior James confessed to me the night the cathedral burned down. I was there, I saw him.
Friar James died weeks before that.
No, he did not.
What proof do you have? Is that the chalice? You said it was melted down and sold.
Fall not for their lies. That could be any chalice. This does not prove a thing.
Where did you find this chalice?
In a secret chamber. We believe Prior James hid it because he felt guilty for falsely accusing Jack's father.
Bishop Henry, he speaks the truth.
Order! I will give you until sunset to produce a witness who can prove your accusations against Bishop Waileran. Not just this chalice. If you fail to do this, I will make sure you are tried for defamation. Philip of Gwynedd, you will stay under arrest. The trial recommences at sunset.
We need a witness.
What are you doing there?
I've seen you draw up plans for a cathedral. Maybe we can do something similar to find our witness. Let's see. Your father.
He looks just like you.
My grandmother said he did.
And Bishop Waileran. What are the connections? Maybe, by exploring them, we can find a witness.
Good idea.
Jack's father. If he was still with us, he could be our witness.
Maybe he still can. If my father had not come to England, none of this would have happened.
Perhaps.
Or maybe it would have happened to someone else.
That's true. Waileran would have hurt others. He's responsible for all this. And we'll prove that.
Bishop Waileran is at the center of all this.
Waileran is a man who thinks of himself, not of others.
Mother says Waileran was behind my father's death.
And she said he wasn't alone. There were 3 men responsible for your father's death. Bishop Waileran, Percy Hamley, back then he was the Sheriff of Shiring, and Prior James of Kingsbridge.
If they were all there, then they were all witnesses.
And only Waileran's still alive.
Hardly a coincidence. Why would these 3 men work together to falsely accuse your father?
He was on the White Ship. No one survived that night. No one lived to tell the story.
Yes. He was the sole survivor.
And then they killed him. But why?
So, what about Prior James and Waileran?
Waileran was not yet bishop when the hanging took place. He was archdeacon. Philip told me.
But James still had to do what Waileran told him to?
I think that's very likely.
Percy Hamley was poisoned.
One less witness that knew about Waleran.
And Waleran probably wanted William to become Earl. He was easier to control than his father.
What about Regan Hamley? She survived.
She was taken to her townhouse in Winchester. And in her condition, she might not be able to help at all.
Why would Waleran, Percy, and James be concerned about the White Ship?
The son and heir of King Henry was on board. So were other possible heirs and other members of the royal household. I heard that Stephen was supposed to be on the ship as well, but became ill. He was the only male heir. The only threats were the king's daughter Maud and her half-brother Earl Robert, and they've been at war ever since.
And your father, Earl Bartholomew. He was a threat. He tried to stop Stephen and paid for that with his life. Maybe my father saw something on the White Ship. Proof that Stephen was involved.
We must find a witness or Waleran will burn Philip.
Waleran, Percy, and James might have been working for those who sunk the White Ship.
And what about the ship?
Stephen always claimed that it had been God's will that he was not on that ship. That he remained as the only male heir.
That wasn't God. I bet Stephen had a hand in the sinking of the ship.
Now imagine what would have happened if he had learned that someone survived. Someone who might have seen what really happened that night. My father wanted to go to England. He was the only one who made it when the White Ship sank. Hardly a coincidence that the king's heirs all died on that ship. Maybe my father knew what happened. I wonder if my father ever learned why he was killed.
Qu'est-ce que ça peut être?
If Stephen was responsible for the sinking of the White Ship, then he may have wanted the only witness of what really happened to disappear.
But he wouldn't have done it himself, of course.
No.
What about the king?
Excusez-moi. Alors, je suis un peu perdu, j'essaie de savoir ce que je peux faire de
If the
plus.
White Ship is involved, then it's likely that Waleran was told by King Stephen to murder your father.
But he was not king back then. Why would Waleran listen to him?
He was promised to become bishop.
Of course.
Remember, Bishop Henry is Stephen's brother, and back then he was already one of the most influential clerics in all of England.
But if Bishop Henry is in on all this, what chance do we have to turn this trial around?
It is a public trial. All we want is for Philip to go free. We find a witness to expose Waleran. Henry would have to play along to appear innocent.
Are you sure that's a good idea?
It's our best shot.
It's possible that King Stephen asked Waleran to kill Jack's father.
Do you think Stephen would have approached Percy directly?
Because of the white ship? To help him cover up his tracks?
I don't think so. I think it's more likely that Waleran contacted Percy. Just like he did when he wanted Percy to arrest my father.
The King of the English. A ruthless murderer.
If the king is behind all this, what chance do we have to stop Waleran and save Philip?
We must do our best.
Do you really believe the king is involved in all this?
Well, that would at least explain why Waleran asked Bishop Henry to be part of this trial.
Right. He's Stephen's brother. They seem to have known each other for a long time.
As a child, I thought the king would be a hero. Like Alexander the Great.
What kind of man would kill so many for a wooden throne and a crown?
As a child, I thought the king would be a hero. Like Alexander the Great. Do you think the king told James to arrest my father?
No. I find it much more likely that James was instructed to frame your father by Waleran, his superior. As Archdeacon, Waleran was much more involved in politics than James would have been.
It is unlikely Prior James ever met the king. If Stephen is involved, then his brother Bishop Henry would be as well. It's possible that King Stephen asked Waleran to kill Jack's father.
I don't think the king was very close with Percy. Otherwise, there would have been many arrests after Percy was poisoned. But the king didn't seem to care.
The king made Percy Earl of Shiring. Maybe because he was indebted to Percy. And not only because he had arrested Earl Bartholomew.
I don't think the king was very close with Percy. Otherwise, there would have been many arrests after Percy was poisoned. But the king didn't seem to care.
What kind of man would kill so many for a wooden throne and a crown?
My father was right about Stephen.
The King of the English. A ruthless murderer.
Is King Stephen behind all this? Then what about his brother, Bishop Henry?
If the king is behind all this, what chance do we have to stop Waleran and save Philip?
We must do our best.
Now, what about Prior James? William Hamley's father?
The king made Percy, and not only...
I don't think the king was very close with Percy. Otherwise, there would have been many arrests after Percy was poisoned.
On tourne en rond, désolé les gars,
Didn't
mais
seem to care.
je vois pas ce que je peux faire de plus.
How are Prior James and Percy Hamley connected?
Not at all, I would guess.
Except through Bishop Waleran.
Yes. He needed James to arrest my father and Percy Hamley to hang him.
Now both of them are dead. That can't be a coincidence. Percy and James died under mysterious circumstances, and Waleran lives.
The prior and the sheriff. One called my father a thief, the other hanged him for it.
Percy and James died under mysterious circumstances, and Waleran lives.
Percy could not have become Earl without Waleran's help. But then he was killed. Maybe he wasn't as useful an Earl as Waleran had hoped.
Maybe Waleran supported Percy to become Earl because he helped kill Jack's father.
Percy could not have become Earl without Waleran's help. But then he was killed. Maybe he wasn't as useful an Earl as Waleran had hoped.
Maybe Waleran supported Percy to become Earl because he helped kill Jack's father.
Percy could not have become Earl without Waleran's help. But then he was killed. Maybe he wasn't as useful an Earl as Waleran had hoped. Percy Hamley was involved in all this.
But the dead don't talk.
True. What we need is a witness, a living one. Percy and his wife had always lusted for power. I remember well when the Hamleys took my father's castle. Percy and his wife had...
The 3 people who murdered my father might have worked for someone else. Someone who had an interest in drowning the king's heirs.
Waleran, Percy, and James might have been working for those who sunk the White Ship.
The king made Percy Earl of Shiring. Maybe because he was indebted to Percy. And not only because he had arrested Earl Bartholomew.
I don't think the king was very close with Percy. Otherwise, there would have been many arrests. I remember well when the Hamleys...
The 3 people who murdered my father might have worked for...
Percy Hamley was the sheriff of Shiring. Well, he could have ordered your father to be hanged.
But he was arrested and held in Kingsbridge first. Prior James claimed that my father had committed theft.
Percy was involved in the hanging here in Shiring. He was the sheriff. Percy ordered Jack's father to be hanged, but he was arrested by Prior James. Percy was involved in the hanging here in Shiring.
Percy and his wife had always lusted for power.
Maybe Waleran supported Percy to become Earl because he helped kill Jack's father.
Y a pas moyen là de... J'aimerais bien
Percy
quitter
ordered
cet
Jack's
écran,
father to
quoi.
be hanged, but he was arrested by Prior James. Percy was involved in the hanging here in Shiring. He was the sheriff.
I remember well when the Percy could not have become Earl, but then he...
The prior and the sheriff. One called my father a thief, the other hanged him for it. As a child, I thought the king would be a hero, like Alexander the Great.
What kind of man would kill so many for a wooden throne and a crown?
Et on tourne en boucle.
My father was right about Stephen. The White Ship. Had those on board survived, there would have been no war, no anarchy.
My father might still have been alive.
And mine.
My father survived the sea, but those that were behind the sinking of the ship caught up with him in the end. Hardly a coincidence that the king's heirs all died on that ship. Maybe my father knew what happened. My father survived the sea.
Waleran, Percy...
The King of the English.
Ah, j'ai compris.
Waleran, Percy, and James were behind the death of Jack's father. Percy ordered Jack's father to be hanged, but he was arrested by Prior James.
Bon, faut que je vois...
James was the prior of Kingsbridge.
That's where they say your father stole the chalice, melted it and sold it.
But we know that's not true.
As we found it, Philip recognized the chalice.
But Bishop Henry wants a witness. The chalice isn't enough.
But it's an important lead for us. I think we're getting closer. So Waleran and the others claimed your father had stolen a chalice from Kingsbridge Cathedral, and that he sold it.
Yes.
We know that's not true, but we need a witness.
It's the only way to help Philip.
Did he ever even see the chalice that they claim he stole? Perhaps not. Our chalice was used to kill an innocent man.
Now they are killing another. We must help Philip. Maybe Stephen never came up with the plan to hang your father.
You mean Waleran did it because he heard rumors and wanted to get closer to Stephen and Bishop Henry? Maybe.
The chalice was used to kill the last survivor of the White Ship.
Yes.
Percy Hamley may never have been in contact with the chalice. It never left Kingsbridge after all. Philip said that Prior James was an honest man. So perhaps Waleran forced him to falsely accuse your father.
Maybe.
That might explain why James was guilt-ridden. The monks still tell the stories about how James thought the devil was after him. Waleran's face when he saw the chalice, that should have been proof enough. We have the chalice, but we need a witness.
James claimed that your father had stolen the chalice and sold it. But instead, James himself hid it in Kingsbridge, in the crypt.
We found his scourge in a bed down there.
That secret chamber is important.
We're close.
Why was the chalice hidden? And by whom?
You said Prior James was full of regret. He probably couldn't just destroy the chalice. Not even after he used it to frame your father. It was the chalice of the Eucharist, after all. And a token for what he did.
That you found the chalice in Kingsbridge and that it was hidden away proves your father was innocent. But it doesn't prove that Waleran is behind it.
Do you think that the king knew about this secret room?
No, I'm sure if Waleran didn't know, the king didn't know either.
And Waleran looked genuinely surprised when I mentioned it.
All these years, there was proof hidden beneath our cathedral that the sinking of the White Ship was no accident. Proof that the whole war was started by cowardly men who were after the throne.
I'm sure Percy knew that your father was falsely accused. But I doubt he was involved in hiding the chalice.
But the monks would have noticed if Percy Hamley had dug a secret chamber in the crypt of Kingsbridge Cathedral.
So someone else hid James and the chalice. Someone who knew his way around the priory.
And who could walk around the priory unnoticed.
Everyone thought Prior James was dead. That he broke into the ice. And now we know he was hidden away.
Why did his monks believe he was dead?
Sub-Prior Remigius told everyone he had found James' rosary by the river. So everyone thought the body had been washed away. They buried an empty casket.
But how is Remigius involved?
Philip told me that Remigius was there when Waleran made Philip prior. Waleran and Remigius knew each other.
That explains why Waleran later made Remigius prior of Shiring.
And Remigius recognized my mother when we arrived in Kingsbridge. He must have been there at the time my father was arrested. I think Remigius knows all about this.
Is it possible that Waleran told Remigius to make Prior James disappear when James began to talk about what they'd done?
When James started talking to the devil.
But for some reason, Remigius hid him away. But Waleran never knew. Yes, that explains why he really didn't believe you. When you said you had seen James in the fire.
Where James died after all. And Remigius thought no one knew.
We have to find Remigius. He's our witness.
Let's hurry. It's getting dark already. The trial will continue soon.
People know you two. You shouldn't walk around shiring like that.
Ah. He's right.
I'll go look for him.
All right. Take care of yourself. And Jonathan,
Yes?
we will talk later about what was said today. About Tom.
All right. Remigius, now where are you?
Où peut bien être Remigius?
Hello?
Do you want to go in, Father?
No, not yet. Thank you.
Are you not with Prior Philip?
Yes, I am.
I pray they'll set him free.
He's a good man.
He is a heretic!
You're fools! Look at yourselves! Who are you to judge a man who has never hurt anyone?
Forgive them, Father.
We don't judge him, but God will!
Tiens, tiens, tiens. Où vas-tu te cacher? On t'a vu?
Remigius? I don't think he's here. Wait, was that him? I think I saw him. Hello? The door's open. Is anyone there?
You had one task.
My God! No!
Our bishop is very displeased.
No! What are you doing?
I'm doing what is asked of me.
Stop it!
No, stay away.
S'il meurt, Philippe est mort. Hein.
This does not concern
Fais quelque chose, frappe, crie, vole,
Who told
cours,
you to do this?
nage.
No one.
Why did he do this to you?
I will tell you. I will tell everyone.
Do you have a witness?
Father Remigius, Prior of Shiring.
Where is Timothy? What they told you is true. Bishop Waleran wanted the jongleur Jacques Cherbourg dead. He ordered our Prior James to frame him. And so he did.
This is a lie!
Is it?
James lost his mind because of what he did for you. He was about to tell everyone the truth. And then you ordered me to kill him.
Nonsense!
Let him speak.
I couldn't do it. I hit him, but he died in the fire. Jack saw him. It was him. I found the bones after the fire, and I buried them.
You should put an end to this, Henry. You really should.
Why would I?
You should stop this, for your own sake. You knew about all this.
Why would I care if that jongleur lived or died?
Your brother cared. The jongleur survived the sinking of the White Ship. He saw how your brother's men killed the king's family so that he could take the throne.
This is preposterous.
Bishop Henry and King Stephen ordered us to kill the man. You want the truth? That's the truth. Right there.
It is not. Waleran is a liar.
Regan Hamley.
Who is she?
I have waited long enough for this day. It is time I raise my voice. The woman, Ellen, she spoke the truth. 3 men were responsible for the death of the jongleur. James, the prior of Kingsbridge. The sheriff, my husband, Percy Hamley. But it was Waleran who was behind it. And only Waleran.
No!
He had heard rumors about the White Ship, about our king. He had hoped to win the king's favor by hanging an innocent man.
But it was not just me. They all knew.
Take him away.
This is for taking my husband's life.
It was Waleran.
Oh, we did it. It's over.
Yes, it's over.
Thank you, Lady Hamley.
This monk must learn his lesson.
The Pope would agree. This trial is not over. Philip pleaded not guilty, but he challenged the teachings and the authority of the Church. The ordeal of fire will take place. To show that the Church is not above God. To show that my brother, the King of the English, is not above God. Not we, but God shall judge this man.
This is madness!
No, they can't do this.
Philip! No! You cannot do this!
This is now a matter of the Church, Lady Aliena. My brother, the King, and I accepted the traitor Waleran into our midst. We were fools and sinners, even if we did not know. I pray that our Lord will save Philip from these flames, for his salvation shall be a salvation for all of us sinners. Light Light the pyre!
There must be something we can do.
Stop this madness!
Chapitre 21. Épilogue.
Ah, Philip.
It is so good to see you, Jonathan.
Tell me, how are things at St. John in the Forest?
Francis is well.
That is wonderful.
Yes, he enjoys the life there. You look worried, Jonathan.
Well, you have a visitor. He just arrived.
Is that not a good thing, Jonathan? Who is it?
That is just it. I wasn't sure if you wanted to see him.
It has been a long time.
Ah, yes, it has. I had to know.
Know what?
The truth is, I never saw God. Or the devil. Have you?
Oh Lord, deliver us from evil. Our Father, who art in heaven,
My God,
hallowed be
there
thy
must be
name.
something we can
Thy
do.
kingdom come,
Stop this
thy will be
madness!
done on earth as it is
Are
in
you
heaven.
blind? Do you not know that a fire will burn any man, no matter who he is? Why are you doing this?
After Wayland's words, there is doubt in their hearts about my motives. About my brothers. No words can erase that doubt, but God can. Our Lord is a cleansing fire.
He's still alive. It's a miracle. He is among us. God is here. How is this possible?
It's all a matter of perspective.
We have to stop this.
No, Jack. Come.
My God.
No, but that's what they see. That's what they believe.
The water. It's dousing the flames. It's a trick.
To them, it's a miracle.
The justice of our church
I believe Philip understands that now. His book will be destroyed. If you or your friends ever mention the White Ship again, I promise you will take Prior Philip's place. And God will not be as forgiving.
Their faith in you and your church is restored. I say it was worth sparing that monk's life. Promise me that Waileran will suffer.
1175. 20 ans plus tard.
Philip?
Yes?
Did you see God? Did he save you that night?
I told him. He only smiled at me. I never saw him again, as long as I lived.
Philip is back.
Philip!
Philip! We're glad you're back.
Did you walk all the way again?
Just part of it.
Old fool.
Ellen stayed in Kingsbridge, together with Tom. I thought I had lost God, that he did not watch over us. But now I see him every day. He is in the good we do, in how we show our love. Jack's hands had become rough, his hair grey, but his eyes still burned bright like hot coals.
It's good to see you.
Aliena's gaze could be as stern as her father's had been, but her heart and wit made her a leader people did not follow out of fear, but out of respect and loyalty.
Jonathan told us you had a visitor.
Just an old friend.
What do you think of this window?
Jonathan came to look more and more like his father, Tom. As Prior of Kingsbridge, he is also a builder of sorts.
I use mostly warm colours. What good are the large windows if it feels cold?
Sally is as stubborn and as gifted as her parents. It is her stained glass windows the light is falling through. She has children of her own now.
And I'd like to show you the plans for the new cloister.
Tommy will be the next master builder, and is as silent as his grandfather was. Once I heard him admonish his father to be more serious at work. Jack only smiled. He knew Tommy was right. Martha stayed in Kingsbridge as well. She was always there for every one of us.
Is the judge done now?
I don't know. Why don't you ask him yourself?
Is the church done now?
It will never be done. Not in my lifetime. Not in yours.
Remember us for what we did, for who we were, and maybe for what we tried to be. And when you turn your eyes to our cathedral, maybe you will see yourself.
Et les amis, eh bien, c'est terminé. c'est la fin d'une aventure, les gars, vraiment extraordinaire. J'ai grave kiffé. Euh, Plein de choses à dire. En termes de graphisme, déjà, c'est plutôt pas mal. Ça pourrait être mieux, mais en vrai, c'est déjà pas mal. J'aime bien en tout cas, hein. C'est ni trop. Comment dire, on sent que quand même la 2D a vieilli. Mais ça reste quand même assez beau en général. Il y a des moments où c'est un peu flou, donc peut-être un petit peu gênant, mais c'est pas très grave. Encore une fois. En termes de game design, il y a des moments où vraiment tu es en train de chercher, tu sais pas ce qui se passe, tu sais pas comment faire, tu sais pas quoi, tout simplement. Tu cherches, tu touches à tout, et au final, bon bah t'y arrives, mais des fois tu sais pas trop comment, ou d'un coup tu percutes, tu fais ah oui, mais ça paraît évident maintenant que j'y pense, et en fait de base, comme c'est pas dirigiste, ça t'aide pas à trouver la solution rapidement, quoi, tout simplement. Ce qui t'incite à fouiller jusqu'au moment où tu arrives à comprendre ce qu'ils attendent de toi, et après bah, tout découle naturellement. Mais au début c'est un peu compliqué, vraiment. Euh, voilà, les sons extraordinaires. Bon, des fois je trouve que les sons ils sont plus forts que la voix des personnages, et du coup des fois t'entends très peu la voix des personnages et beaucoup trop le son. Là il y a eu comment dire, ils auraient pu quand même vérifier un petit peu à ce niveau-là et baisser le son quand un personnage parle, plutôt que de faire éclater une symphonie et t'as le personnage qui parle par-dessus. Des fois c'est un peu gênant, c'est un peu bon, pas très grave non plus, mais ça retire un petit peu de l'immersion. On se fait matraquer les oreilles, entre guillemets, hein, parce que les sons sont cool, mais on se fait matraquer les oreilles à la place de pouvoir entendre convenablement les personnages. J'ai trouvé ça un petit peu dommage. Bon, ça ne retire rien au charme du jeu. Il y a quoi d'autre à dire? Donc le son est excellent, les graphismes des fois un peu vieillots, un peu flou. L'histoire, elle est trop bien. Alors au début aussi, bon, moi ça c'est mon problème, c'est que j'ai du mal à rentrer dedans. Mais à partir du moment où j'étais dedans, j'avais envie de continuer tous les jours, vraiment ce jeu. Et plus on avançait dans l'histoire, plus j'avais envie de savoir ce qui se passe. C'est ce qui m'est arrivé quand j'ai commencé à lire Harry Potter. Au début, j'ai fait, mais c'est quoi ce truc? C'est nul. Et en fin de compte, je me suis retrouvé à continuer, à lui donner sa chance. Et au final, bah, je suis pas déçu, quoi, hein. Je ressors avec des super beaux souvenirs, une histoire qui était palpitante. À la fin, là, quand Philippe allait être brûlé au bûcher, j'étais en mode, s'il vous plaît, faites que ça marche pas, faites que il y a un truc qui fasse que Philippe, cet homme si bon, si généreux, si gentil, on peut pas terminer l'histoire sur Philippe qui est brûlé au bûcher, quoi. Pour moi, c'était pas possible. Et ils m'ont donné ce que j'attendais, et ça, c'était trop cool. Ils m'ont mis une pression monstrueuse pour me faire ressentir de la joie du fait que ce personnage le connaît. J'ai vécu avec lui une partie de sa vie. Je l'ai aidé à faire des choix qui étaient très difficiles et pourtant qui ont amené à une situation qui est extraordinaire et qui est belle. Le reste de sa vie va être beau. Il a son église, enfin sa cathédrale, il a sa cathédrale. Tout le monde est plus ou moins heureux. Je sais pas si c'est obligé d'arriver à cette fin, mais en tout cas, moi, je suis très content d'avoir eu cette fin-là. Je sais pas s'il y aura un plus à la fin du... Non, il y a pas. Donc du coup, eh bien, comme à chaque fois en fin de VOD, je vous invite à aller regarder sur les playlists que j'ai. Il y a sûrement un jeu qui pourra vous intéresser. J'en fais de plein de sortes différents. Quasiment tous les types de jeux, je les fais. Je me suis rendu compte récemment que j'ai pas fait beaucoup de jeux de voiture, mais les jeux de voiture en général, ça demande beaucoup de temps, beaucoup d'investissement pour avancer, débloquer les voitures, les améliorer, etc. Je suis plus fan de faire un bon RPG, genre les Tales of, qui prennent entre 80 et 40, je crois que c'est entre 40 et 60 heures de jeu, je sais plus, c'est un truc dans le genre, que de me faire un jeu de voiture où je passe 40 heures sur un jeu de voiture. Je suis moins fan, parce que dans les Tales of, 40 heures de jeu, ouais, ok, mais t'as une bête d'histoire derrière, t'as des personnages attachants, des personnages t'as envie de leur mettre des claques, enfin bref, ça dépend, mais vous voyez l'idée, il y a beaucoup plus de choses, c'est beaucoup plus intéressant d'aller vers certains jeux plutôt que d'autres. Et j'aime bien les jeux de voiture, mais ça demande trop d'investissement. Je peux pas me permettre d'aller sur des gros jeux. Peut-être qu'un jour je ferai hein, un jeu de voiture ou quoi. Ça ne m'enlève pas l'envie. Juste voilà. Donc n'hésitez pas à aller voir les playlists. Il y a plein de jeux différents. Et si jamais, pour me donner de la force, abonnez-vous. Voilà, c'est tout ce que j'avais à vous demander. Sur ce, eh bien, portez-vous bien. Et je vous souhaite une excellente journée. À la prochaine. Salut.